Good morning, everybody, or good afternoon, I should say. It's Happy Sunday and another episode of What Has Changed Your Life. Now, if you were diagnosed with a rare genetic disorder, what would you do? How would you handle it? That monumental diagnosis of something that not a lot of people know about. Today, we have a guest that is exactly what happened to her. Her name is Summer, and she is going to talk about her rare genetic disorder that predisposes her to stomach cancer. Welcome to What Has Changed Your Life, Summer.
Hi, thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. So, start at the beginning. How did you even know that you had this genetic disorder? How did your journey begin?
Unfortunately, it's a tragic story. My aunt passed away before she was 30 from stomach cancer in the 90s. And at that time, it wasn't recognized as, anything to be concerned about with genetics or anything like that. But her 20-year-old daughter was diagnosed 15 years later with stomach cancer. And at that point is when they recognized that, gosh, this is two cases of very young stomach cancer. And then the doctor that she had heard about the CDH1 genetic mutation. And so he began investigating the possibility that's what our family carried. And so she was able to go for the testing. She passed away the day before her 21st birthday, but she was able to have the test done before she passed away. And so we were able to find we carry this genetic mutation because of her. And it wasn't so much to know for her, but it was for the rest of the family. So we now have a parents' gift because she left us with the gift of life. And from that point, we all had for genetic testing. First, it started with my grandparents to see which one of them carried the mutation. And then it was all of their children. So they knew that my Auntie Rosemary had carried the mutation and Aaron. And then my dad tested positive as well. And then I have another two aunts and an uncle that tested negative for it. But because mine tested positive, then myself and my two siblings had to go be tested as well.
And you tested positive?
Yeah.
And what about your sibling?
My sister also tested positive, and my brother was negative genetic disorder.
So is this something that predominantly affects women?
No, every child has a 50-50 chance of getting it.
True enough.
It doesn't, it's not really dictated by your sex. It's just 50.
Luck of the draw, so to speak.
Yeah.
So I am so sorry for your loss. That is horrible.
Thank you. Yeah.
But as you say, your aunt and your cousin gave you a gift of knowing.
Yeah.
So once you figure out you have this rare disorder, what are your next steps?
So right away, you're given the option of having a total gastrectomy, which is where they remove the entire stomach and just connect your esophagus with your small intestine. And they do some other so that you don't get reflux very bad all the time. But that's kind of what they push because there are no reliable testing. If you just want to take the surveillance road, it's such a rare type of cancer. It's a diffuse type of cancer, so it doesn't form tumors until it's very far advanced and spreading already. So it's very unreliable to just do the surveillance route. My sister actually, she went for her gastrectomy. She had been going for all of her endoscopies for the testing for it, and they had all been clear. And when she had her surgery, cancer was found. It was there already starting, but her test that she had 3 months before didn't pick up on it. So that's kind of what shocked me. And she's 3 years younger than me, and I kind of realized that I needed to stop playing with fire because I was 18 when I found out, and I didn't have my surgery until I was 28. I just wanted to have it before I had my surgery, and I was young, naive. You don't really think that clearly at that age. I think I understand the major consequences that your actions and decisions could have.
It's monumental. It's not a little thing to have your stomach removed, and especially to make those decisions at such a young age. I mean, that is huge. huge to be faced with that at that age.
Yeah.
Like
And it's
that's almost unimaginable.
right. And they tell you when they're recommending the total gastrectomy that you'll never feel normal again, that you'll often have pain and discomfort when you eat. And at my age, I just wasn't ready to face a life like that. I just wanted to live life a little bit and have my kids, because when I went for my consultation, because I was determined that when I did find out that I had the gene that I was going to get surgery right away.
Mhm.
But when I went for my surgical consultation at that time, like how many years ago was that? Like almost 15 years ago, probably. They
Mhm.
didn't really have much studies or anything like that on people who had had gastrectomies and had successful pregnancies. So my surgeon kind of recommended that if I wanted to have a family, I should probably do it before I had my surgery, just to be safe, because he couldn't make me any promises. So that's
Mhm.
why I put it off then. But the
Wow.
knowing the quality of my life might go down significantly kind of scared me off a little bit too.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is huge, life changing, huge life changing. And then to be told at a young age, by the way, you need to hurry up and have kids because this is going to affect your quality of whether or not you can have kids if you do this prior to.
Yeah.
That's wow. That's a lot of big, huge decisions at such a young age.
Yeah, I had to grow up quick.
Yeah. Did you get any help from psychologists or social work to help you work through those issues that I'm sure cropped up going through this whole entire process?
That's actually one thing that when I've spoken to other medical professionals that they've asked about. And we did have a genetic counselor, and she was wonderful. But I do feel like there should have been more mental support that
Hmm.
was kind of like, I don't want to say enforce, but really encourage somebody. Because looking back now,
Hmm.
the anxiety that introduced to my life is astronomical. And now that I understand more about mental health and the supports that are available and stuff, why was that not said, you need to do this?
Yeah,
Maybe it has changed now, but I do think that there should have been more support for the
for
mental.
you.
Yeah.
Absolutely, 100%. Because those are decisions, you have to, first of all, you're being told, and so I'm a cancer survivor, so I understand when you're told, hey, listen, this isn't a matter of if, this is a matter of when, because my breast cancer actually turns out to be very genetic. And, to be told that and then say, okay, you have cancer, you have to make this decision to remove a body part from you, right? And in your case, you are probably going to get this. That in itself is massive and life altering,
Yeah.
right? That C word is a word every single one of us dread.
Yeah.
And to hear that at 18 years old, that is, I can't even imagine. I know what it felt like at 39 when I was told I had cancer. I can't imagine what it was like. And then to witness your aunt and your cousin pass away at such young ages. Like,
Yeah.
wow.
It was scary for sure, especially being so close with that cousin and watching
Mm,
how just it was an awful way for her to have to go too. So that's
mm,
definitely sad. But I remember my surgeon coming and sitting on my bed after my surgery when they were discharging me, and he said that he didn't think that they would be doing surgery the day of my surgery because I was a mess. Like I was so afraid that I was going to die on the operating table. Like
yeah,
I had two kids, so I was like terrified and
yeah.
hyperventilating. I'm sure terrifying everybody else in the waiting room, but the most chaotic room that I have ever been in, with all the people coming and going, and like it was just craziness. But I was just like sobbing, hyperventilating, hugest
Yeah.
anxiety attack I've ever had. So when he came to get my consent form signed, I was just, I couldn't even write my name. He's like, just scribble what you can, because my hands were just balled up. I was so tense. And he came and sat on my bed after, and he's like, do you know, I didn't think we were going to do surgery that morning because you were such a mess. But he's like, it takes somebody very strong to walk into a surgical room to get such a life altering surgery done when there's nothing that you know of. And,
Yeah.
most people have that. an ache or a pain, or you know that the cancer is there and you need to do, as far as I knew, I didn't have cancer, but I didn't want it to start, right?
Yeah,
That was
absolutely.
really, I don't know, it really stuck with me that he would recognize that, because I really underestimated what they meant by finding my new normal. I didn't
Yeah.
realize what how long that new normal was.
Yeah. It's so tell me about post-surgery. You have your stomach removed. Um, did they use part of your intestine to create a new stomach for you? Is that how they did it or no?
No,
That's one of the ways we do it, but how did they do it for you?
I think it's called a Roux-en-Y. So
Mm-hmm.
it's literally just connect. I had the surgeon, Dr. Oliver Bates from Calgary, do my surgery, and he's done quite a few of them. And he's a GI cancer doctor specialist, and the pouch version of it is more prone to complications down the road. So I call it my tube, because they just connected the two back together.
And
And
that
then
was
they kind of did some different plumbing to my pancreas and stuff, so that my bile ducts are a little bit farther down my intestine, so that I don't have bile coming up all the time.
yes. So what other side effects do you have from your surgery?
So the first like 4 to 6 months, I had severe anxiety, because I literally thought I was dying. I felt so horrendous. I was only 120 pounds the morning of my surgery. And so I really did, I'm 5'5", so I really didn't have the extra weight to lose at that point. I had a 14-month-old that I had to cut off from breastfeeding for my surgery when I decided to have my surgery. And so breastfeeding had depleted my body. It had taken everything that I had stored up. And so I really had nothing to coast off of while my body relearned. And so it was very hard. I was very malnourished, constantly dehydrated. So I would like save going upstairs to my bedroom for one time. Like I didn't take my kids to bed. Somebody else had to take my kids to bed, because I couldn't do my stairs twice a day. It was very hard. So then after 6 weeks, I kind of had in my head of like, that's when the pain's going to get better, the physical pain, right? And then once that physical pain was gone, but I still felt like I was like dying, I just kind of hit a wall, and I was like, when am I ever going to feel better? Because every time I would eat, and I had to eat like every 2 hours, every time I would eat, I would be in pain. I would be dry heaving, but nothing would come up. So it was like deep dry heaves with this open incision. And it was really hard. The recovery was very hard. And I'm often asked by people who come to me to ask about the surgery because they were considering or whatever. And I always tell them that waiting for that new normal was definitely the hardest part. And I was very prepared for the physical pain, but I wasn't prepared for the mental part of it, waiting to feel better and to feel normal again. Like I almost hit a point where I was just like hopeless. I didn't think I was ever going to feel normal again. And then slowly it did start coming. And as I was able to find foods that did kind of work for me, and my body kind of adjusted, like our bodies are amazing. So after I think 6 months was kind of where I rounded a corner, but I still couldn't go grocery shopping without, feeling like I was going to pass out by the end of it. Like it was really hard that first year. I got surprised by a pregnancy at 18 months after surgery, and it was amazing. Like I was terrified because I just thought, like, I still feel like some days I might keel over and die. How is my body going to support the baby? But it like seemed to reset my body, and it was probably the best thing that happened to me.
And also, too, as you said earlier, your surgeon had warned you about pregnancy after having this procedure. So that was probably weighing on your head as well, because you're thinking, oh my goodness, what's going to happen? I've had the surgery. Now I'm pregnant. How is this going to turn out? And all of that, I'm sure, brought all kinds of different emotions up for you.
Yeah, it was very scary. I'm so lucky to have a gastroenterologist who like really caters to me and takes care of me very well. And so I knew I could call him and I was concerned or had any trouble or anything. So I booked an appointment with him right away. And I was just like, I'm like, you need to do all my blood work. Like, can I actually support this baby? Like, what's going to happen? And he really put my mind at ease about it. You know, he was reminding me that, you know, look how far you've come. You're doing good now. And then that women in third world countries who literally don't have any nourishment have healthy babies. So just need to calm down. And thankfully everything was good. He was actually a 9-pound baby. So
Oh, yay. That's awesome. So let's talk about your nutrition for a little bit, because not having a stomach, that is part of all of our digestive systems. So not having that stomach anymore, how has your nutrition changed for you to get the nourishment that you need? What is it that you're doing differently now?
So I rely on nutritional supplements. So I'm on tons of vitamins. I take a multivitamin, vitamin C, vitamin D, potassium, zinc. I have to go for iron infusion, B12. I forget what else I'm on, but there's a lot. Like, it's a good amount a day that I have to take. But other than that, I do have to eat a little bit differently. I can't have a lot of fiber. It oddly has the opposite effect on me that it should, and ends me in a lot of pain. But anything that's super hard to digest, like refined flour, is better for me to digest than like wheats are. And anything too gassy or fibrous, I have a hard time digesting as well. So I tend to just stick with my safe foods that are, you know, I can do a little amount of avocado at a time, peeled cucumber, cooked stuff is definitely better. But I typically just eat. I boil ground beef, even. I'll break it down a little bit and kind of just stick to my safe foods, and then I cook for my family, and I have my food stash in the freezer that I just heat up minutes at a time. But for the most part, nutrition wise, I rely on because my diet is quite restricted, and that's been one of the hardest things for me, because I'm one of those, like, before I had the surgery, I was whole foods, raw food. So, you know, like, super into making sure that we were eating healthy. That was just a part of my anxiety with the gene. I felt like at least our diet, I could control that part of our cancer risks. So that's been a big adjustment for me to now not have the best diet.
So things like meat you can have, you just have to bring it down to a point where it's easily digestible.
Yeah, meat is probably my staple food because I need so much protein, and it's, despite probably being something that's harder to digest, I have a harder time digesting fiber. And so vegetables and fruits, I don't eat a whole lot of.
Now, what about protein shakes and things like that? Do you find those beneficial at all?
I haven't really. I actually just recently found one that's lactose free that doesn't bother me too much, but there's so many different things that I mean, it's been 6 years since my surgery, and this is the last few months that I've found this one is the first one that I've found that doesn't really bother me.
And you were saying lactose bothers you now as well?
Yeah, but oddly, cottage cheese is my staple. So I don't know if it's because it's so high in protein, and I think it's whey protein too, so it's longer powered or whatever. So it's like my go-to snack. If I just need a quick snack, I just scoop a couple mouthfuls of cottage cheese and I'm good to go till I can eat.
Wow.
Yeah.
And do you have to go for regular blood work checks to make sure your fluids and electrolytes are within normal? You were saying you have to go for iron infusions. How often do you have to go for them?
It's usually only like every couple of years. I didn't have to get until I got pregnant, and then my last trimester, everything just kind of crashed out. My family doctor seems to be more resistant to them, but anytime I go to a specialist, they're like, "No, you're going for an infusion."
Yeah.
So I go every 6 months to get my blood count done. So I usually can feel when things are out of balance and might stretch it or go sooner if I know something's off.
And what does that feel like when things are off for you?
Usually I feel really like low energy, or I know when my iron's getting low, I get almost like restless legs, but like my whole body. It just feels like it's crawling. It's a bizarre. I don't even know how to really describe it. But then I
Like
get
spiders,
really
like,
winded and stuff. Yeah,
okay. Mm-hmm.
got spiders crawling all over my body.
Right, right. Okay. And
Yeah,
what else do you feel? Low energy, tingly, spiders crawling. What other things do you feel? Do you get headaches at all or anything
headaches.
at all?
I do notice myself getting really out of breath. Like usually it's my iron that's the one that is the hardest one to control, just because I can't supplement it orally because it makes me so sick when I get constipated, and it ends like lands me in the hospital usually. So I just that's the one that usually gets me. So then I'll feel out of breath more quickly than I normally would. I climb up the stairs and I'm just like done from just the short climb up my stairs I did. So that's when
Yeah,
I know that maybe time for
time to go back.
yeah.
And constipation, I would imagine, would be a huge thing for you because of the fact that you're not able to eat as much fruits and veggies as you would like, and protein can be very bulking.
Yeah.
Um, and so I would imagine that constipation is something that's hard. Are you able to take anything that can help you keep things a bit more regular? Or
Yeah, my gastroenterologist wants me taking actually a daily stool softener, but it makes me way too crampy. So I only turn to it as a last resort when I like.
last resort?
But for the most part, if I stick to my safe foods, I make sure I keep hydrated. It's when I start eating more fruits and more vegetables that it usually
Has the opposite effect.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
which
so
is so counterintuitive to what we're taught, right? We're taught eat your fruits and vegetables because that's the fiber, it gets things going, and it has the complete opposite effect for you, which
yeah,
is very interesting.
yeah.
Now, in terms of eating your food, we talked earlier about you cooking it, boiling it, breaking it down. Do you find that you have to chew your food a lot more to get it through because of the fact that if it's too much in one bite and you're swallowing it, that can also cause you some issues in your stomach. Well,
Oh yeah,
abdomen,
my
I should
tube.
say. Yeah, in your tube.
Yeah.
Yes. Do you
Yeah,
find
I have
that
to
too?
chew my food entirely. So that was one thing that they taught right away in the hospital. You have to make sure that your food is completely smooth. So that's basically the job that your stomach does, is breaks down your food to that smooth, no chunks left in it consistency. So
Mhm.
I have to chew and do the work on my stomach with my mouth and then
Yeah.
swallow. And I have to eat very slowly. If I try to take too big of a bite, I don't have that pocket anymore where air can kind of come around things. So if I'm eating too quickly, it's just pushing air down, and I'll be in agony quickly.
Yeah.
Well,
Very painful.
yeah.
Gas pains are very, very painful. So the adage of chewing your food 50 times at least is something that you have to practice at every meal.
Yeah. And now that it's been 6 years, and in the beginning I would gag. It grossed me out so much because it would also take me so long to eat that I'd be eating cold food, right? And
Yeah.
I started to, like, if I was eating pasta and meat sauce or something like that, I would blend it up just a little bit, so it was kind of like a stew to save me some of the chewing, because it would. And my gag reflux after surgery was just like, it's still kind of sensitive, but right after it was like I could just think of the word gag and I would start. It was so sensitive, and
Yeah.
so, but yeah, and then I can't drink at the same time as eating because the liquid tries to push the food down quicker than it naturally would go on it. So yeah, there was lots to learn about eating.
And what about breads and things like that? I know you were talking about refined flours. Are you able to eat breads and things like that now or no?
So I do fine with that. A lot of people are gluten intolerant after they have surgery. I do have to be careful. I kind of treat my body as if a diabetic diet would eat, because everything is absorbed so quickly once it goes down that
Mhm.
it's instantly absorbing. So if I eat too much carb, it's just like eating a whole bunch of sugar for a diabetic, right? And it'll cause my
Sure.
sugar to go up and down, and then I have crashes. And so I
Blood sugar
typically,
roller coaster.
yeah, I
Yeah.
I try to balance things out with just a little bit of carbs, mostly protein.
Mostly protein.
Yeah,
Wow. That takes a lot of planning.
it does. I don't leave my house without a snack bag because with all my intolerances too, I just like even eating out is pretty tough. So I'd rather just pack my cottage cheese to eat. Or if we're
Mhm.
going somewhere, I would rather just on that.
Yeah. Yeah, because you don't know. I'm celiac, so I completely understand in the sense that I just take stuff wherever I go because you just never know if you're able to eat whatever's provided,
Yeah.
even if you're at a family's place.
Yeah, it's not worth
Right?
chancing.
No, and that's the thing, because the minute I eat something that has wheat in it, the pain, it's unbelievable. And I'm sure, as yours is, if you eat something that you're not supposed to as well, it's not worth the pain that you get by eating something you're not supposed to.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
I'm like, I'm not doing it. No way am I doing it. It's
Yeah,
not.
everyone always feels bad, and I'm like, don't worry. I'm like, I do trust you, but I don't want you the headache of having to think about all the things that I can't eat that you need to make a side dish for me. I'm like, I'll just bring my own food. It's okay.
Yeah. And if something happens, because sometimes inevitably it does anyway, you don't want the person to feel horrible. At least that's the way I think about it. I'm like, oh, I don't want them to feel bad. So I'll just bring my own stuff. And my kids are celiac too. So I just bring for us. And then it's only immediate family that really know how to cook for us that I kind of trust in a way.
Mm,
Other than that, I just bring our own stuff. And then I know it's okay. Nobody's going to feel bad. It's all going to be fine and we'll be fed.
yeah,
And that's
exactly. Yeah,
it. Nobody has to worry.
yeah.
So, yeah.
And
Now,
another thing that's really weird about my eating is I
yeah,
cannot tolerate plain water anymore.
really?
Yeah.
So,
There's
what do you,
theories that it's the the difference in acidity in the bile in my tube that's from my intestine versus what stomach acid is, um,
right?
and the high surface tension of water that they just don't really agree very much. There's very few people. I'm in a couple of support groups for gastrectomy patients, and there's very few people who can drink plain water regularly. A lot of like now, I can sip on very cold water if I've recently finished a meal. Like I can't eat right or drink right after I finish, but like a little bit after, I can have like a couple sips without it bothering me. But
Right.
if I was to just sip on a glass of water right now, I would be like so waterlogged and sick. It's just nauseating. So I just have to like sweeten it. I put like just a scoop of iced tea mix, like really weak iced tea, and then it's fine. I can drink it just like normal. But if it's just plain straight water,
Plain sweet water, you can't do it.
and the only way I can drink it is if you were to take your huge like a liter of water and guzzle the whole thing back, that like full kind of
Yeah.
nauseous feeling that you get when you're like waterlogged from that much water at a time. That's
Yes.
the only thing that I can relate it to, but it's like one sip does that to me. Yeah.
But it's nice though that you can put something in it
Well, it
that
is
helps
not for my
you.
teeth.
Yeah.
my my teeth are in horrible shape, and I always tell the dentist, I'm like, use me as an example of why you do not put sugar in a child's bottle, because I brush and floss my teeth at least twice a day, and I still
Right.
have 4 cavities every time I go to the dentist.
Well,
So
but you kind of have to weigh,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Because you're not able to drink water, but our bodies need water because that's how we stay hydrated
yeah,
and not get dehydrated was by drinking. And so you can't drink it straight, so you have to do what you have to do, which is put a little iced tea in it.
yeah, yeah. My dentist
Lesser
was giving
evil.
me a hard time, but I'm like, I have to hydrate. Like,
Yeah, because that would be worse for you to get dehydrated,
yeah,
right? And that's very dangerous for people that have had gastrectomies for sure to
mm-hmm.
get dehydrated because then that tails your fluid and electrolytes in a completely different tailspin, and that's not what we want at all
Yeah,
for our patients. So, yeah. So, you know what? Put the iced tea in it.
yeah, exactly.
That's how we're gonna roll.
Yeah.
Now, in terms of your kids, how old are your babies now?
I have she'll be 12 next month, a 7-year-old, and maybe 4 next month as well.
Nice. And how old are they going to be when they get genetically tested?
We're not sure yet. Um, Typically it's 18, but because the cancer has affected our family so young, usually it's like 40 to 50 that this genetic cancer will start. But our family, it's been in the 20s and low 20s. So
Yes.
they often say that your future generations should be tested 10 years
10 years prior.
First affected, or the youngest affected member, which affected meaning had cancer. And so Erin was only 20. So we could have had my daughter tested when she was 10, but we're just not quite ready for that yet. Now
I
that
can see that.
I've had the relief of anxiety for myself, like years of anxiety before having my surgery were debilitating. Every Christmas, I was like, had to make it perfect. I was worried that it would be the last one with me just because it was only 7 months from Erin's diagnosis to when she passed out. So I would think like, man, this if I were to get diagnosed, then I might not even make it till their next day, right? So after I had that surgery, that anxiety completely left, and it was so liberating. But then
it was.
My oldest was 5 at that time, and I didn't really think of it too much until she started approaching 10, and I was like, oh, now I have to worry about my kids if they have a gene because they have a % chance of having it. And so now it's almost worse because it's like they're your babies, right? Person
Yeah.
Yeah.
But so I know for my daughter, sorry?
We just have to decide when we're ready.
When you're ready.
My doctors told me that when I'm ready to know, like obviously it would be amazing if she doesn't have it, then I would worry, right? But I don't know how it would happen if she does have it. So I almost feel we know signs to watch for if she starts having issues. I'm trying to comfort myself in that she's young. We have a bit of time to decide that.
Yes. I know for my daughter, because my breast cancer is very genetic. They said to me, because I was 39 when I was diagnosed with breast cancer, so they said to me the same thing 10 years prior, because each generation, I'm 3rd generation breast cancer, so each generation has actually gotten 10 years younger. So for my daughter, they want to actually start testing her in her 20s to make sure. And then they basically, if she comes back with the genetic mutation, then she would have to make a decision to remove her breast and prophylactically. Because as you say, if you are genetically predisposed, have a disposition to this, and same in your case, it isn't a matter of if, it's a matter of when, which is the really, really scary part about it all.
Yeah.
And so I feel you when you say that, because I know the weight, sits right here on our shoulders, because I know for myself, you feel almost, I don't know why, but I always felt guilty a little bit. And I'm like, oh my God, I could be giving this to her. Right. But it's totally unintentional and totally not rational. But we still take it on ourselves. That's what moms do, right? We take it on ourselves. Yeah.
I recently, well, not recently, it was last fall, but CBC came and did an interview on me and kind of focused on the genetic aspect of it and how my kids are at risk and how people were very rude about me choosing to have kids naturally because I took the chance of giving them this genetic mutation. And that was hard. I was kind of expecting, because we're farmers, and they came and did the interview while I was in the field harvesting with the guys. And I was kind of expecting for some of the people who were against spraying and stuff like that to come at me saying that, well, you're spraying, of course you've gotten stuff now. But I was not expecting the harshness about choosing to have kids naturally.
Wow.
Yeah.
I don't know if I have words for that. Because
the way that I look at it, I have the genetic mutation and I've had to have my stomach removed. And even if I passed away of cancer 2 years ago, I still would have been thankful for my life, right? Like,
yeah,
I would never have been mad at my parents for making the decision to have me, despite knowing that they could possibly give that to me. I don't know. I guess it's easy to say that I'm not dying of cancer right now, but I feel like I'm okay. I have that genetic mutation and I'm worthy of life, right? So I was able, it didn't really bother me a lot, but I was not expecting people to be like that about that.
No, and the thing about it is that's a silly thing to say, because I potentially could be giving my kids the breast cancer gene. Would I have not had them knowing that? Well, no,
Yeah,
right? Our genes can mutate at any time.
exactly.
As you go into having kids and next generation and things pop, are you going to stop living life? No.
Right.
Like I'm sorry you had to hear that.
Thank you.
Like
It was
that's
it was
awful.
bizarre to me. Like I don't know. It's I just responded, you know what? You're lucky you've never had to think about it because clearly you don't have the I don't know. It was mind blowing though.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't have words for that, I have to tell you. Actually, I do have words, but they need to stay in my head because that's just you can't come at somebody like that because that is not, first of all, honestly, their opinion of what you do shouldn't even matter to you because you know what? It's not their life. It's your
Exactly.
life.
Yeah.
And
And I
you
also
live
think
your
that like
journey the way you want.
we know the potential's there, right? So we can always be proactive about it. Whereas
Absolutely.
so many people out there that carry these genetic mutations that have no clue, right?
Exactly.
So
Exactly. And you only figure it out when someone gets sick or you get sick.
yeah,
I'm adopted, so I didn't actually have a lot of medical history. So most of my life has been going through, blind genetically because I didn't have a clue what I had. And then it was interesting because when I was 35, no, I was younger than that. My daughter was diagnosed with celiac disease. And she's type 1 diabetic, so it's not uncommon for diabetics to become celiac. So she was tested, then my son was tested, and he came back celiac. And they were like, one of you is celiac. Of course, I thought, can't be me. I don't have, you know, intestinal problems. I have lung issues, skin issues. I have all these other issues, but I don't have intestinal issues. Well, it turns out it was me. And the minute I stopped eating wheat, my lung issues, my skin issues, all those things disappeared.
wow,
And it was like, but I had no idea. My whole entire life, I went through whole life into my 30s not knowing that this was something that was a part of my life. And the same with the breast cancer. I only found out there was genetic because I got the birth records from Ontario. They finally opened them up, and I was able to obtain my medical records that way. And that was when I found out breast cancer. But by then, unfortunately, a few years later, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. So going through that genetic testing was more for my daughter as it was a mood point for me, as like you say, for you as well. But it's more about the kids,
right,
figuring out what to do and make those decisions at the appropriate time for them and what feels right for them too.
right,
Right?
yeah,
Like I have my opinion. I'm like, yes, right, get rid of them, blah, blah, blah. My daughter's 20, has not had children. Am I going to say to her, you have to get your breasts removed? You know what I mean? Just like the decisions you had to make. You were so young. You wanted to have kids,
yeah, exactly.
right?
Yep, I get that for
So
sure.
yeah, like you just can make decisions based on the knowledge you have at the time. You can't guess, right?
Yeah,
And everybody's going to handle it differently than what you may expect, right?
yeah, yeah, for sure. Yeah, my dad's chosen to not have his gastrectomy done, so he's still goes for his surveillance, and he's in his 50s now. So I,
Hmm.
I admire his. I don't even know if it would be safe for him. But it is. It's just he just trusts the process. I guess I don't know, but I couldn't
And
do
some
that.
people do that. Yeah, some people are perfectly happy. They're like, you know what? I'm just going to go through life like this, live my life each day.
Yeah,
I know for myself, I was very similar thinking process to you in the terms of I need to be able to sleep at night. And for me, knowing I had my breasts still, I couldn't sleep at night. So I chose to remove both of them.
Mm.
And so like you were like, no, I'm young. I need to live my life. And this will give me the best chance of doing that. So you removed your stomach. Whereas your dad is a different scenario.
Yeah.
He's like, you know what? I'm going to just see how it goes.
Mm-hmm.
And that's okay. Both decisions are right.
Right. Yeah.
They're right for the person.
Exactly.
And you can't, until you walk in the shoes of the people, you can't really know, right? Until you are feeling it yourself.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Breast cancer is actually part of the CDH1 mutation as well. So eventually I'll probably mastectomy route as well. Just
I did not know that. That's very interesting.
yeah. So it raises your risk. Stomach cancer is the predominant one. Colon cancer is also at risk. So I still have to go for colonoscopies. I just had one actually. And lobular breast cancer is also
It's
quite
part of
54%
wow.
of developing. So, but that one is a little bit more easy to monitor and do surveillance, right? So I'm
Yes.
supposed to go for a yearly MRI for those, but
Mm-hmm.
eventually it's like, at what point is the constant MRIs more harmful than just going and getting them off? They've served their
Yeah.
purpose.
Yeah. That's what I said too. I'm like, yeah, chop chop. Hey, listen, I can go around without wearing a bra. I'm kind of happy about that. I can wear something with a low back and not have to worry.
Yeah,
So there are perks if you want to look at the plus side.
yeah, exactly.
Gotta look at the positives, right? You gotta laugh. Sometimes if you don't laugh, what do you got, right?
Exactly.
You gotta look at the positive side.
Yeah.
Well, I want to thank you very much for sharing your story, brave enough to come on here and talk to me about this most intimate and personal thing that you and your family have gone through. And I'm so thankful that you did and were able to share this knowledge with our group today. So
Thank you for
thank you
having me.
very much. You're very welcome. Everybody, you have a great Sunday, and thank you for watching another episode of What Has Changed Your Life. I'm Tracy, and we'll see you next time.